So with that, I wanted to introduce our next speaker. His name is Ernie Martin. Ernie is the founder and managing director of Receivable. Here we go. He did research and best practices as a consultancy firm, specifically around order to cash. And he's done a lot of research with suppliers and has helped specifically around the area of artificial intelligence, an area that we're all hearing an awful lot about. It's certainly in our today and also in our near future. And so with
in talking about some of the research that we do at Receivable Savvy, every 2 years we put out a study called the Perception Study. And so this year we did it again. And so between 2015, the last time we produced a perception study in 2017, these are some of the trends that we found. Email invoice submission grew from 68 to 78%. Now that's not necessarily all just using Outlook and adding an attachment to Outlook. It includes email used in invoice automation as well. And so suppliers, organizations, companies submitting invoices, they're using email more than ever. Third-party e-invoicing grew from 16 to 24%. Now, 24% in the big picture scheme of things is not a significantly large number. And I think 5, 10, 15 years ago, the thinking was that e-invoicing would be 50 to 75% of all invoices submitted. It ain't there yet, okay? But it's still growing. It's growing much slower because there are other things that are at play here. And so, in addition to that, invoice submission by ERP grew from 8% to 19%. So e-invoicing has some competition. They've got ERP as competitors. They've got email. They've got other things. They've got supplier portals initiated by customers. So they've got a lot of competing methods in order to send invoices. And so the question that we asked, what methods of invoicing does your company use when submitting invoices to your customer? And so 78%, as we said, say email. 76% send paper invoices through the mail. And paper seems to be the bane of everyone's existence. Everyone uses it, but no one seems to really, really like it. But we still use it to a great degree. So those companies, those organizations, even financial institutions that want to get rid of paper, this is what you're up against, is suppliers, organizations, other paper for various reasons. And some of the reasons that we've heard in our research is it's old-fashioned, we can trust it, doesn't cost us anything, which is untrue because you've got postage, you've got the time it takes to submit those things, so that's not true, so it's a perception issue. We've always done it this way, so there's a nostalgia factor involved. But you also see EDI, and I remember 10 years ago, 5 years ago, there was this bell tolling for EDI, that EDI was going away because of electronic invoicing. Well, here we have EDI growing, and I think it's grown from 2015 to 2017. So EDI is actually catching its second wind from our perspective. But you also see fax at 32%, portals created by customers for us to submit invoices. That was significantly lower 2 years ago. You also see third-party e-invoicing at 24%, as we stated. ERP, portals created by supplier companies are also in the mix too. So you have all these ways, all these methods that organizations are using to submit invoices. And so when companies come to other companies, when solution providers come to other companies and say, you know, we've got a great way for you to submit invoices, this is what you're up against. And there are various reasons why they love submitting invoices this way. We asked a follow-up question that we didn't include here. We did not include here, but some of the reasons are very interesting as to why they choose to submit invoices that way. Okay? Suppliers want their money now, because we talked about suppliers want to get paid fast, they want to be paid quickly, they want to be paid yesterday if they could. And so the top 4 issues when we asked, when submitting invoices to your customers, regardless of how they are submitted, What issues are the most important to your company? Getting paid faster, 90% of all organizations say getting paid faster is the most important thing. That's consistent year after year after year. Not only the last 2 years that we did this study, but going back to my previous role, we asked the same question. It's always been getting paid faster. The second most important issue is getting the invoice delivered faster. Okay, so not only do they want to get paid faster, they want to make sure that invoice is in the hands of the recipient and of their client as well. They also want to confirm our invoice is received by the customer, 78%. So not only do they want to get it there faster, they want to be told, yes, we've received your invoice. So that's critically important to them as well. And so there are other things here as well, including reducing problems and exceptions. So when that invoice is submitted and it's being processed and approved and paid, they don't want to get a phone call, oh, by the way, there's an issue, there's a decimal point that's off, or this isn't the number that's in the PO. So anything they can do to reduce problems and exceptions is what they're looking for. Okay. So we also asked, when being paid by your customers, how does your company prefer to be paid? 59% say they prefer to be paid via ACH. Okay, we're going to see why this is important when we go to the next slide in a moment, but almost 60% say they prefer to be paid via ACH. Only a quarter say they prefer to be paid by check. And some of the answers we get when we ask, well, why do you prefer to be paid by check? I think ACH is kind of obvious. You know, it's fast. It's not as much as wire transfers, et cetera. It goes right into your bank account, et cetera. Some of those things are very obvious. But some of the reasons why companies prefer check is because, again, they want to hold something in their hand. They want to get it. It has all the remittance data on it. No one's ever said, boy, I got a check. There's no remittance data. You know, no one ever says that because the remittance data is right there in the stub. They also like the fact that they can go to the bank and make the deposit themselves. Even though it's more work, they seem to like it. Okay, credit card and P-card from customers. Okay, now I know we're talking to financial institutions in here, but you know, if you ask customers, do you want to get paid by a credit card or P-card? 7% say yes. The remaining percent say, we prefer ACH. Even more prefer check. Not necessarily credit card. So something, and then there are other forms of electronic payment. And so basically, a quarter prefer checks, only 7% want credit or P-card payments. And so for the next slide. Okay, so we also asked, how are you currently being paid by your customers? 87% are being paid by check. And again, not necessarily a bad thing for financial institutions, okay? But we saw in the previous slide that only 24% or 26% or a quarter wanted to be paid by paper check. And a lot of that has to do with the remittance data, okay? So 72% prefer ACH, which that continues to grow year after year. And then they currently get paid by credit card and P-card at 61%. So you compare that 61% to that 7%, they prefer to be paid 7%, they currently get paid at 61%. So you start to see when it comes to understanding your customer, what the commercial client wants, you see what they actually get versus what they want. And then you've got other electronic payments at 30% and then other at 7%. Okay. How satisfied are you with the results of your organization's current cash application process? And in the study, we explain what a cash application actually is. And so what we find is, you know, this group right here, 72% are not very satisfied with their cash application process. So that means there's a lot of opportunity here. Okay? And so 50% manually deposit and reconcile payments, 34% use manual automated deposit and reconciliation processes, 29% automate deposit and reconciliation with homegrown solutions, 16% use third parties. Okay? So 61% of those not satisfied plan to improve processes via technology or automation investments in 2017. And so you see the opportunity here. Okay, X% are not very happy or very satisfied. You see the current state of how they're currently handling their cash application process. And then the question becomes, well, how can AI specifically help, knowing that this is where your commercial clients stand? Okay? And so 51% of payments being processed are by check. The majority of electronic payments are being done by ACH. And 74% of ACH payments have invoice remittance sent via email. Okay, so some would say that this is a significant disconnect. Okay, so is it going to the right person? Is there enough information in the remittance data? Okay, and all of this information was provided by the AFP Electronics Payment Survey results, so that this particular piece is not ours, but it coincides with the studies that we do, because this is a significant pain point right here for a lot of suppliers, a lot of organizations that we talk to. They love ACH, but the sticking point is the remittance data. Now, we work with an organization by the name of NACHA, which you guys are probably familiar with. They oversee the ACH network, and so they work very diligently with things such as same-day ACH and credits and debits, now that that's available. But they're also working diligently to make sure that the remittance data is provided in ways that the recipient wants it and can use it. But it's still a sticking point, and the perception among organizations is that if I get ACH, I'm not going to get that remittance data. Okay?